up, people? I'm the Catalyst, dropping knowledge, waking people up. I got a doozy for you today. Your birth certificate is the United States' collateral. That's right. In the 1800s, in the early 1900s, gold was the predominant form of currency in this country. It's what you used in business transactions and to buy things. Then in 1913, the Federal Reserve Bank was established, and it began issuing Federal Reserve notes the following year, which meant that you take your gold to the bank, and in exchange, they give you a piece of paper with the value of what you turned in. And this is an example. It's a gold certificate, as you can see at the bottom, in gold coin payable to the bearer. And so, when you had these pieces of paper, this was supposed to mean something. And in fact, it kind of did, because it was worth the amount of gold you traded in. Now, the reason this didn't work is because foreign countries weren't having it. And they started to trade in their pieces of paper to get their gold back. And so did people. And when this happened, it became a problem because you actually had more of these pieces of paper floating around than you had actual gold to back them, which meant that some people were going to get left out and ended up holding pieces of paper which couldn't be traded in. Therefore, the pieces of paper didn't mean anything. Now, at this time, your gold was worth about $20 per ounce. And then along comes this man, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, aka FDR, President of the United States. And in 1933, 1 month after his inauguration, he declared a national emergency and ordered all gold coins, gold bullion, and gold certificates to be turned into the Federal Reserve banks by May 1st. In return, Americans got Federal Reserve notes redeemable in silver. So you take this, and you take all this, and you take the rest of your gold, and you trade it into the banks, and you get this. And this is a Federal Reserve note, and as you can see, it says the note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, and is redeemable in lawful money. Lawful money equals silver. And as you can see, this was in 1934. So we're basically talking about he made it illegal for you to have gold and to use gold in business transactions. And he forced you to use these banknotes. This is where it gets crazy, because on January 30th, 1934, the Gold Reserve Act was passed, giving the Federal Reserve title to all the gold which had been collected. Simultaneously, this changed the price of gold from $20 per ounce to $35 per ounce, which meant that all the silver certificates people had recently received for their gold now lost 40% of their value. Talk about the old switcheroo. Now that you've turned your gold in, guess what? It's worth more money now. All of a sudden. Just like that, just because we say so. How is this constitutional? Now, the government might be crooked, but they're not stupid. They knew they didn't have enough silver to back all the reserve notes that had been printed. But they had something better. So let's go back a bit. In the early 1930s, the government starts making all newborn babies have certificates of live birth, or birth certificates. And this is where you fill out that piece of paper when a kid's born, and you give it a name, and address, and mother's maiden name, and father's name. And it's kind of funny because they use the mother's maiden name because to them, you're a bastard, and they are your father. The government, the United States, is your father. That's why they use the mother's maiden name. Anyway, so you got people thinking that the money is backed by silver, which just wasn't true. They were using birth certificates. And they used these birth certificates because they could estimate how much money each person is worth. Because over your lifetime, you're going to pay taxes and all kinds of fees and license fees of all sorts. So here's how it works. Once a state has registered a birth document with the U.S. Department of Commerce, the Department of Commerce notifies the Treasury, which takes out a loan from the Federal Reserve, which basically means the Treasury says, hey, Department of Commerce, did you get those fresh batch of birth certificates. And the Department of Commerce says, yeah, man, we got the birth certificates, so go ahead and call the Federal Reserve and take out that loan, man. Everything's all good. So basically, the Treasury is promising that, these people that we have birth certificates on, they're going to pay taxes. They're going to spend all kinds of money because we're going to force them to. So go ahead and print some new bills, man. Print some new money because we got it covered. So your birth certificate becomes collateral. That's how they're able to borrow money. That's how they're able to get money printed out of thin air. And if you look at new money, it doesn't say that it's redeemable for anything. Lawful money, gold, anything. Because it's fiat money. That means it's money that's backed just because they say it is. And with the Treasury's newfound money, they decide to purchase bonds from the Department of Commerce. And the Department of Commerce invests the proceeds from selling the bonds in the stock market. So your birth certificates are being traded like stock. See, that person on your birth certificate, that's your company. And you are the CEO of your company. So they're basically putting a value on that person on your birth certificate and saying this company is going to make X amount of dollars and spend X amount of dollars to the government. But as the owner of your company, if they borrow money based on your company's name and your company's worth, then that should be what your company is actually worth. Therefore, everybody should just start off with about $2 million from the very get-go. You shouldn't have any debt right now because they actually owe you. The government owes you. They want to make you think they own you. But in fact, you own your company. And they just take your company from you because people's parents signed the birth certificate. And when you sign something, it makes the business transaction legal. And that's the bottom line. When you sign your name on that birth certificate, you have just given the government the right to use your kid's company however they see fit as collateral. And this is how they get you. And this is how they got you. I'm pretty disgusted that this is what they're doing. I'm even more disgusted that people don't teach this in school. You don't learn this in class. That's why I teach. That's why I do research. And that's why I do this, because I'm trying to wake people up. I want people to realize that we own this country. This country doesn't own us. We need to take back what's rightfully ours. Pass this information along to anybody you can. This is The Catalyst. Like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Be back next time.